Hello my beautiful friends and welcome back to the channel. My name is Becc. I'm a professional mindset coach, a medical doctor, and the founder of the group coaching program, Dear Darling, where I take empathetic doctors and I make them unshakable as they deserve to be. Now in this video, I've got a little story time for you about how I realized I have changed my personality. And I want to help show you how you can do this too. Most people think that our personality is fixed, and that's certainly how it's taught. However, that's only because these people and scientific community hasn't tested the effects of having mindset coaching. You know, these kind of studies and conclusions don't necessarily take into account all kinds of possibilities and interventions, do they? So anyway, I was at a clinical innovators event the other night and we had a panel discussion going on, and one of the founders, Michael Wang, he was being interviewed about how he was successful in this grueling path of being an innovator, being an entrepreneur. You know, this path that we all know is filled with, paved by ups and downs and yeses and nos. You know, we know that people who do new things in the world, they usually have to have quite a lot of resilience about them and a lot of commitment to their mission. It's not like they're following a pre-proven path, like for example, going to med school. The steps are laid out in front of you. You don't have to do anything uncertain. You just have to make sure you can kind of fit into the mold and tick the boxes. Whereas a path of an innovator is full of uncertainties, and there's so many opportunities for you to be told no, for somebody to tell you that you're doing it wrong, or what you're planning is ridiculous and can never work. And people would have said that, you know, about the iPhone, Snapchat, MySpace, whatever. And these rejections, these no's, these downs are all opportunities for you to interpret it as I've failed and therefore to be derailed. And we're like, hey, Michael, how did you not get derailed on this path? And his answer to this was, I have an inability to feel shame. Which is very funny. And also, I realized in that moment, my brain kind of went, he's different to me. He's a unicorn. That path isn't my path. That's not something that I can do because he has an inability to feel shame, and I definitely have an ability to feel shame. I have a mastery of feeling shame. However, here's what I wanted to offer you. So the first thing is, recognizing that line of thinking, that's not for me, they're different from me. Sometimes it's correct, but a lot of the time I found in my life, they're my own self-limiting beliefs. I'm not that kind of person. What I mean by that is in the past, I haven't been that kind of person. But that doesn't mean that if I don't want to, I can't be that kind of person in the future. I was working on this exact thing with one of my clients who's a big, brilliant doctor practice owner who's very prolific in the community, and she's moving and shaking and changing things and their clinic's expanding. And she has changed her personality as well in a way that she started coaching thinking, I'm not like them, these other people who she's in business with and working with. And now she's realizing, whoa, I am actually just like them in that I'm just as powerful as them. And I have different superpowers, but I am not unlike them in that they're more powerful than me. So anyway, the first thing is recognizing when you limit yourself, but that's not the point of this story. The point of this story is I actually want to offer to you that it is possible for you to develop the inability to feel shame. Not quite the inability to feel shame. I would say being unshameable, right? And being unshameable is going to be an incredible part of yourself that you can develop on your way to being unshakable, right? What I help doctors do. Let me tell you about it. So firstly, I have already got evidence in my life of how I have changed the amount of shame that I experience, and in particular, the amount that I'm derailed by shame. Because what I'm really talking about here is not the actual inability to feel shame, but I'm talking about the ability to have shame come up or have shame be a possibility, a threat to you, and yet not have that control your behavior and limit your options. It's all about developing the ability to not have shame control you, right? Whether it be by reacting to the shame that you feel in your body or doing things to try to avoid the shame. They're two things that you do when you're controlled by shame. So in my life, I can see that I actually have dramatically changed my relationship with the shame. And I'd say that I'm not controlled by shame anymore. Although if I put my coaching hat on, I would be suspicious and I would want to experiment with myself a bit more. I actually do want to do this now that I've been shown this, that the The decisions that I make might still be subconsciously trying to help me avoid shame, but more on that at another time. What I'm trying to say here is there's almost always further that you can stretch yourself if you want to. Anyway, back in med school, for example, I felt shame like 80% of the time, right? And of note, I felt shame in a way that it affected me, it controlled me, it changed my decisions subconsciously. And I reacted to shame with things like overeating, withdrawing, playing it safe. It wasn't just that I had the emotion of shame, but it actually affected my life. It affected my behavior and my results. Now, fast forward, after all my coaching work over the years, and this is actually so wonderful to reflect on, I really have been freed from shame in such an enormous way. You know, I'm doing things, including failing and making mistakes, getting rejected in a way that that version of me back then would have never even believed. And I can definitely say that I've completely changed my relationship with shame. And that's a big change in my personality. Now, it's not that shame is some kind of validated part of our personality, but if our personality is what we tend to do, how we tend to respond, then because of my change in relationship with shame, there's a dramatic difference in how I tend to be and how I tend to respond to situations. My personality has very much changed, and anybody who knew me in med school and now would agree with that too. But for my scientifically inclined people, I have also changed my personality in terms of validated personality traits. Take the big 5, for example, the most widely scientifically validated personality measures. My agreeableness, just take that for example. My agreeableness from med school to now is completely different. I am way less agreeable now than what I was in med school. My personality has changed even in such a short time because I intervened on it, because I used mindset coaching to change the way I think, which therefore changes the way I feel and behave. I even changed the patterns of thinking that come to me subconsciously through mindset coaching principles, which means subconsciously I respond differently. I don't even have to consciously respond differently. It just happens naturally to me because of following these principles of how my mind works and how to make my mind work in a different way, how to make it work for me. So, all of this to say, even for something that feels so far away from you, like being unshameable, this is something that you can actually change for yourself. You are not stuck with the personality that you have right now. These things aren't necessarily intrinsic to you. You get to choose what parts of yourself you develop and what parts of yourself you decommission. You can choose that. You have so much more control over your life and your experience, your personality, than you think. And you only think in a limited way because that's how you've been taught. You know, even in the scientific community, people talk about how personality is a fixed thing and how it doesn't change over time. But again, that hasn't been tested against interventions like mindset coaching that for me clearly changed my personality. So the science isn't the last word. The science is useful, but it needs to be put into context and we need to recognize the limitations of it too. And if you don't recognize the limitations and you just take it as truth, if you just accept this is my personality, then with that you limit yourself. You take all these options off the table, and you might have sat there in that session, a younger version of me might have sat there in that session and heard that advice and thought, well, I guess I can't be an entrepreneur. I'll never be successful. I don't even want to become somebody who goes through that. That sounds awful. I don't want to get rejected over and over and over again. I don't want to stand alone for all these years. But that was only because I didn't know what it was like to have a good relationship with shame. I didn't know. So my beautiful friends, I just want to offer this to you in case nobody has ever told you this before. You do not have to be limited. Your life can be whatever you want it to be. And the best way that I know how to do that is to get mindset coaching. And that's why I recommend you come and join us in Dare Darling, because not only will you get all the powerful coaching, but you get the community. You get the other women doing the work on themselves. And with that, they will prompt you and they will inspire you. And they will show you things that you never thought were possible by demonstration, by them being the evidence for you. All right, my beautiful friends, if you found this one helpful, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next one.